This is Abbott and Costello, right? This is Lewis and Martin. This is the original vaudeville. Hey folks, welcome to Joel Reads Bible. I'm Joel, and I read Bible so that you don't have to, and we are in Numbers chapter 11. That's right, we are almost done Numbers. We're not really almost done it. We're just on chapter 11, and there are 36 chapters. I remember that. I have a great memory for how many chapters are in certain Bible books. I do not have to Google them. And we're going to get right into it because we've already said everything we need to say about the previous 10 chapters in the Numbers 1 through 10 recap. So we don't need to mention any of that anymore. So let's jump right in to Numbers chapter 11, of course, starting in verse 1, because it's the only thing that makes sense. The people were complaining in the ears of Yahweh. When Yahweh heard it, his anger burned, and Yahweh's fire burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. I thought Yahweh was slow to anger. I don't know that it's like the people were complaining for years and years, for the whole 2 years leading up to the time when he got angry. It doesn't say any of that. And I know that there's probably apologists who, if they would even notice this, because they probably don't notice when just some of the outskirts of the camp are consumed. By the way, when we hear that it's the outskirts of the camp, I think there's probably people involved. I don't think it's just like, oh, some of the empty tents when people were at the tabernacle, he just burned those up. I have a feeling that he consumed people with the fire. Like, I think that's probably what happened. Either way, it seems like it's quick to anger. I feel like this is contradictory to the advertised attributes of Yahweh, which are slow to anger. He heard some complaining and he got so angry, his anger burned and he consumed a bunch of people on the outskirts of the camp. Okay, it doesn't say people. But let's see what happens next. The people cried to Moses, and Moses prayed to Yahweh, and the fire abated. So they may have been like, oh, my tent. I just bought that. That's my favorite blanket. Moses, tell Yahweh to stop. Tell him to stop. Moses is like, please, Yahweh, stop burning everything. Please, Yahweh, stop burning it. Fire abated. That's easy. That's almost anticlimactic, to be honest. Like, this is happening in 2 verses. This is what is a little bit frustrating. And I don't want to spend too much time on every single, we're not going to do this for every single verse. They go over and over and over descriptions of fabrics and, how the tabernacle's built and gold things and killing animals and all that stuff. Here we get kind of a cool story. Right? People are complaining and Yahweh's getting angry. So he starts burning stuff up. That's kind of like a cool thing. It's just like Moses prayed and then he stopped. Oh, is that it? Why couldn't we have something like they had to circumcise half the kids and then wipe the foreskin blood on all the men's feet or something? I know that's just a replay of the earlier Moses story, but do something. Have some sort of action. You know what I'm saying? The name of that place was Taberah, because Yahweh's fire burned among them. The mixed multitude that was among them lusted exceedingly, and the children of Israel also wept again, and said, who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate in Egypt for nothing, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic, but now we have lost our appetite. There is nothing at all except this bloody manna to look at. It's not really, they didn't put bloody in there. I added this British thing to it, this bloody manna. The thing is that I know because we're reading Bible, you might think that they actually squeezed blood all over the manna or the manna got covered in blood, which actually makes sense because if they're killing all sorts of rams and other animals just in the desert sand and that's where the manna lands, then there's a good chance that some of the manna is going to fall in blood, in a pool of old congealed blood. And someone's got to eat the bloody manna. So as much as I just said that as an adjective to make this slightly more exciting, it could have happened. The manna was like coriander seed and it looked like bdellium. I don't know what that is. Coriander it's cilantro. Like coriander and cilantro, I think, are like the same thing. I hate cilantro. Like I'm one of those, like I have that gene where like it makes me feel like I'm going to throw up. And I feel like that's the correct gene. Like I think we should try, and I know that this probably isn't like PC or anything, but I think we should try to breed out the gene that likes cilantro. Does that make sense? Like I feel like we should like stop procreating with people who like cilantro or whatever. So if the manna was like coriander or cilantro, like I agree with the Hebrews. And I also think that this is another ding against Yahweh. Look, the burning up the tents, the giving slavery laws, those were bad, but he's sending manna that's like cilantro or coriander. Like, gross, God, that sucks. Do better. The people went around, gathered it, and ground it in mills, or beat it in mortars, and boiled it in pots, and made cakes of it. Its taste was like the taste of fresh oil. When the dew fell on the camp in the night, the manna fell on it. So it's like falling in wet sand and blood, obviously. And it tastes like fresh oil. Like, is that, does anyone actually want to eat like, I'm loving this fresh oil. Like, I get it. Like, frying things is nice. Like oil is useful, but like, you want something that tastes like fresh oil. I don't know. Maybe like extra virgin olive oil or something. Anyway, it seems a little bit strange, but this is also a hint, by the way, which happened throughout Exodus, and we're getting a continuation of it here. Were the Hebrews even slaves in Egypt? We remember fish, which we ate in Egypt for nothing. Like, is it for nothing because that's just what they fed their slaves and they think that like being slaves is nothing? The cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic, like they had a lovely life, it sounds like. And everything was hunky-dory. Could it have been that bad? Like, don't you think if it was like horrific, they wouldn't be reminiscing about it? They would be like, oof, yeah, we had fish, but remember the beatings. Remember the forced labor. Remember all that pain and agony. They are being a little bit short-sighted because their babies were killed. Pharaoh killed a bunch of or tried to kill a bunch of their babies. Maybe he was never successful. It's not that clear. The midwives seem to have done their job in stopping any of that killing. So maybe it just never happened. It was just an attempt murder of babies. You know, unlike Yahweh, when he goes to murder babies, he's successful. His people are successful, but Pharaoh's not so successful. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it feels like, I don't know that the Hebrews were technically slaves in Egypt. Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, every man at the door of his tent, and Yahweh's anger burned greatly, and Moses was displeased. Moses said to Yahweh, "Why have you treated your servant so badly? Why haven't I found favor in your sight, that you lay the burden of all these people on me? Have I conceived all these people? Have I brought them out, that you should tell me, carry them in your bosom, as a nurse carries a nursing infant to the land which you swore to your fathers? Where could I get meat to give these people? For they weep for me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to bear this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. If you treat me this way, please kill me right now, if I have found favor in your sight, and don't let me see my wretchedness." That's a beautiful speech by Moses, and it is so funny. When you're a Christian, growing up as a Christian, we're too serious about this book. Because you got to remember, these are people, right? There's people that are writing these, and these are stories. They're meant to be entertaining. Especially this part, I think, is meant to be entertaining, because it seems like what's happening in this book is that we have like the boring laws, the regular stuff, but they're punching it up, right? with like, this is what happens when you do the thing. We got a little object lesson. And then here we've got this like fun story about like, don't complain when you just have to eat fresh oil manna. And this is super fun. Moses is doing these great arguments. Like, what did I give birth to these people? Literally, did they come out of me, God? Like, why am I doing all the work here? Like, why do I have to listen to this stuff all the time? Like, you brought them out of Egypt so I would like have to suckle them all at my teat? What? Just kill me. You know what? Actually, I'm sick of it. Just kill me now. I'm so tired of doing. Do me a favor. If you care about me at all, if I've ever been good to you, just kill me on the spot so I don't have to see how pathetic I've become. You've reduced me to some sort of a nursing mother, which, by the way, probably misogynistic again. I mean, I don't want to call everything misogynistic in the Bible, but I think that everything is misogynistic in the Bible. But the thing is that, like, it's really, really funny. It's good comedy, and I really appreciate it. And it might not even be that funny, but just in contrast to like the other, like most of the other chapters we've just read, hilarious, just like a breath of fresh air. It's so good. Like, this is amazing literature all of a sudden. Yahweh said to Moses, "Gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and talk with you there. I will take of the Spirit which is on you, and will put it on them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you don't bear it yourself alone." There is a spirit. Now, this is an argument for the Trinity. I'm not going to get into it too much, but if it is an argument for the Trinity, there's also going to be a contradiction, because Jesus says that I'm now going to give you the Spirit. That wasn't here before, but now it is. And now we have this weird spirit thing, which was on Moses. When did the Spirit come on Moses? I think we will remember... And don't be rude. I think we will remember back in Exodus when Moses had that shiny face, which in other translations means he had horns on his head. You know, Moses was horny after the Spirit came on him, and which is weird because it often goes the other way. Anyway, so the point is, Moses, I think in that moment, going up on the mountain and all those things, got that spirit. So he's the leader. He has to do everything. He's talking to God face to face. So now God's like, all right, I'll just like spread that out amongst all these other guys. Because to be honest, Moses, these 70 elders and you, they're basically the same. I can do anything through anyone. You guys are all kind of just pawns. Frankly, I don't know why I need any of you at all. This is all just sort of like weird pageantry. Say to the people, sanctify yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, and you will eat meat. For you have wept in the ears of Yahweh, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore, that was Yahweh doing an impression of the Hebrews. Like, he's rude. When he's talking about the Hebrews, and he's like, you guys are pathetic. Like, he does like really rude impersonations. I don't like it, but that's Yahweh. Therefore, Yahweh will give you meat, and you will eat. You will not eat just 1 day or 2 days or 5 days or 10 days or 20 days, but a whole month, until it comes out your nostrils, and it is loathsome to you. Because you have rejected Yahweh who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we come out of Egypt? I don't know how else to see this, other than Yahweh is supremely petty. Are you really going to see this as anything other than absolutely ridiculously petty? These people are bored because for 2 years they've been eating nothing but fresh tasting oil bread that they've been creative with. By the way, they've done their best, Yahweh. They've like turned it into all sorts of different cakes. They've smashed it up. They've probably eaten it fresh. Supposedly they were supposed to have quail. Also, if they kept a quail around, they could have quail eggs. I don't know why they're not doing that. You know, when I was a young boy, my mom told me a story where this young kid, I don't know if he like put too much sugar on something. He was eating too much sugar. And his mom was like, don't eat that much sugar. But he kept on eating too much sugar. So she tried to like teach him a lesson, and she gave him a whole bowl of sugar and forced him to eat it. And I think that he got either really, really sick, or he died, or he got diabetes. I don't know exactly what happened in that story, but I'm sure it was a fictional story, and whatever my mom was telling me was just some sort of gross object lesson. And maybe she got based it on this. Maybe it was a fictional story that was written from this. In the story that my mom told, like the parent was the bad guy. Like she wasn't saying that like that's what people should do. That's bad parenting. But that's what's happening here. He's like, oh, you guys aren't happy with the boring thing that I gave you? You want meat? I'm going to force feed you meat. I'm going to ruin meat for you. I'm going to destroy meat where you will never want to eat meat again. It will be coming out your nostrils. Now, again, this is horrible to believe this to be true. Like if you think that Yahweh is a real God or something like that, like this is gross. Like this is how we know that Yahweh is disgusting or probably written by people. Again, if you think this is a real God, then like, what are you doing with your life, right? It's so obvious it isn't, especially not a good God. But as a fiction, this is kind of funny. Like again, like it is funny. The people are whining because they think they had it better when they were slaves. That's a little bit like, they're like, oh, we want it. They're complaining. And then Moses is like, oh, I can't listen to this anymore. Just kill me. And God's like, no, I got a better idea. Let's force feed them meat until it's coming out of their bloody nostrils, which they probably would be bloody at that time. They're going to hate meat. That's what we'll do. They'll shut up. They'll shut up because they'll be gagging on this meat. They'll be puking meat out. It'll be coming out of their faces because they're going to eat meat for a whole month. That's not that long. I just realized a whole month, like what, just once a day? Or like every day only meat, like they just have a solid stomach full of meat. I think he's force feeding you meat. I think these people are lying down in the desert and he's shoving tube steaks down their throat. This also, by the way, flies in the face of all of Leviticus. Why don't the Hebrews have any meat in the wilderness of Sinai? Why are they complaining? Because throughout all of Leviticus, we're hearing how they're going to kill rams, sheep, goats, birds, and they're going to eat a lot of that stuff. They're going to bleed it out, and they're going to eat the breasts of these animals or whatever. There's a lot of detail in what parts they can eat and what parts they can't eat. When does that happen? If they're not eating any meat right now, why were we subjected to chapter after chapter after chapter of how you're going to kill and cook meat, boiling it, and then frying it up? Well, probably not frying it up, but like burning it. What happened? Is that like future for the future? That's why I don't think that this was like something that happened for real at the time. This is one of the many reasons. It seems like it was something that was written when they were doing the sacrifice stuff, way, way, way in the future. And then they just like retroactively created these stories to support what they were doing in their culture. Like that's the only thing that really makes sense here. There's no good reason why they don't have tons of rams to eat at this point. They're burning something forever in the tabernacle. You realize like 24 hours a day, there's a fire burning. There's something burning in the tabernacle. Do you remember that verse? Like that's what's supposed to be happening right now. But no meat. Which one is it? Which one is it, Bible? Moses said, the people among whom I am are 600,000 men on foot, and you have said, I will give them meat, and they may eat the whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them? to be sufficient for them? Shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them, to be sufficient for them? Yahweh said to Moses, has Yahweh's hand grown short? Has it grown short? Now you will see whether my word will happen to you or not. This is interesting because it suddenly gives like some sort of like reality to the amount of people that are there. 600,000 men. So there's like 2 million people. And he's like, we need like to empty the seas of all the fish. We got to get all the fish out of all the seas, which there's way more people than that on this planet. And I guess there's way more seas than what they had close to them. Like maybe there's something about sustainable fishing or whatever. Like maybe that's what Moses is doing. Maybe he's like progressive. He's ahead of his time. He's like, we're going to be getting rid of all the fish. That's not good. We can't be eating meat every day. We're going to be slaughtering all of the animals. We got to like slow down on this. We got to have some sort of like sustainable system here. Yahweh's like, just you wait. I'm right wing. We're going to just use it all up. I'm going to show you. We're going to use it all up. Just to go back to the contradiction, they have flocks and herds. Or don't they? What are the herds and flocks that they're going to be slaughtering? Like, how do these people not have meat? Do they have flocks and herds or not? Like, what is going on here? They had them in Egypt. We know they had them in Egypt because when God killed all the cattle once and then tried to kill them again and then finally killed them a third time, it was said that he didn't touch any of the Hebrews' cattle. So we know they have it. And we know that they have to kill it for Yahweh, so why aren't they eating it? That's part of the deal. This is a contradiction. No one can tell me different. This is a stupid sort of like plot hole. They're just having a fun time telling a story, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's Bible. Moses went out and told the people Yahweh's words. And he gathered 70 men of the elders of the people and set them around the tent. Yahweh came down in the cloud and spoke to him and took of the spirit that was on him and put it on the 70 elders. When the spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did so no more. Okay, so maybe they prophesied for a short time and then that was it. They didn't like continue to prophesy. This is probably just because like they don't want people to think that these other guys can still prophesy. They're not Levites. Remember, I think the Levites are writing this and they don't want anyone else to have superpowers except for them. So they're like, yeah, they prophesied for a bit, but then they didn't. Then after that, no more fancy stuff. Not after that one thing. That's interesting that the Spirit allows them to prophesy. That is similar to the Holy Spirit. We haven't gotten to the New Testament, but we'll have to remember this when we get there in 20 years. Maybe this is the Holy Spirit floating around. The thing is that like when they're writing stuff in the New Testament, they're basing it on this. So it's like they probably would use similar iconography, similar like word pictures and things like that, which would make the whole thing a little bit more cohesive. Is that a word? But 2 men remained in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, the name of the other Medad, and the Spirit rested on them. They were of those who were written, but had not gone out to the tent, and they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Sounds like tattletaling. I don't know what they're doing wrong, but it sounds like something's going to go bad here. Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his chosen men, by the way, the servant of Moses, check out the hanky-panky they did in the tents in Exodus. One of his chosen men answered, My lord Moses, forbid them. Moses said to them, Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all of Yahweh's people were prophets, that Yahweh would put his spirit on them. So maybe Moses didn't forbid this. Maybe he's a fan. He's kind of open. He wants everybody to have these religious experiences. Moses went into the camp, he and the elders of Israel. A wind from Yahweh went out and brought quails from the sea. We already had quails before. Shut up. And let them fall by the camp, about a day's journey on this side and a day's journey on the other side, around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the earth. The people rose up all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quails. He who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all out for themselves around the camp. While the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, Yahweh's anger burned against the people, and Yahweh struck the people with a very great plague. The name of that place was called Kibroth Hatava, because there they buried the people who lusted. Obviously, the quails from the previous quail thing was like a one-off. That was just like a lovely quail thing. He's like, you guys are hungry? Well, let's do this. I'll give you a bunch of quail, and I'll also give you a bunch of manna. And then we're going to continue with the manna, but we're not going to continue with the quail. And then they're like, we need more quail, though. We need more meat. Ignore the ram stuff. We need more meat. And so he's like, okay, we're going to have stacks of quail. Like, we're going to get all the quail. You're going to have to walk a little. They have wings and stuff, but you're going to have to walk. Maybe quail don't really fly that well. I don't know. But you're going to have to walk out, get the quail, walk back, and then prepare the quail. Everyone gets a lot of quail. I don't know what 10 homers is, but I'm assuming that that's quite a bit. And that was the least amount. And then everyone else gets way more quail. They're all ready to eat the quail, but Yahweh's promise doesn't really come true. So Yahweh lied again, right? Because he's like, you're going to eat quail for a month. But he really couldn't provide that much quail. Like, for an all-powerful God, he's a little bit of a failure. He's kind of inept. He's not great, right? Instead of giving them quail for a whole month, because that would have been hard, and Moses was like, we can't do this. There's 2 million people here. He gives them enough just for a show, and then as they're eating it, before they even swallow, he makes them sick so they can't eat any more quail. And he kills them. I feel like he's killing all the people who ate some of the quail. And they're the ones that lusted. So obviously what lust means in this context is they wanted something that they didn't have. They wanted something more. They were coveting. That might be a similar word here. Obviously, they didn't want to have sex with quail or something like that. It wasn't like a sexual thing, because you can have a lust for life. It's just something that you want. What's the message here if we're looking at these as object lessons, right? This is like, be happy with what you have. Don't go for more. Don't ask. Don't complain. Don't come to the leaders and be like, why is there not enough water for us to drink? It's like, do you guys really want to die right now? Do you guys really want to die right now? Yahweh will kill you. Do you really literally want to die right now? I feel like that's kind of the messaging here for these people, which is sad. It's not a bad idea to have lust, right? To want things, to try to better your situation, to grow. Try to get more, not at the expense of others, but if you can, seize the day. Carpe diem, or in this case, carp. Damn, that's a lot of carp. There's like 2 million people worth of carp. I don't know if they have carp over there in the Levant. From Kibroth Hatava, the people traveled to Hazeroth and stayed at Hazeroth. That was a wild chapter and much needed. I'm really happy. I liked Numbers 11. I think that Numbers 11 is a fantastic story. There's some great dialogue. And I said in the recap that Moses seems to have become like some sort of secondary character to the law, that the law is so much cooler. Like, that's all we're doing. We used Moses for some cool story, and then it's just like, here's all the laws, and it's like, God told Moses, and it's so boring. But now we get Moses, his personality is back. He's complaining to God. He's whining. He's hilarious. What have I got tits now? You have somebody sucking on my tits, And I like him again. I thought we had lost Moses, but he's back with a vengeance, and Yahweh is bickering with him again. You got to remember, this is a fantastic odd couple double act. And it started at the burning bush. We don't see enough of it, so we get distracted by all the garbage, all the laws and things that are boring, and all the sacrificial stuff, the ceremonial stuff, and the slavery laws, and the subjugation of women, and the killing of way too many people, and all that stuff. We go, oh, this sucks. But it's moments like these where you're like, this is funny. This is Abbott and Costello, right? This is Lewis and Martin. Laurel and Hardy, they were a little bit more of like a silent duo. These guys are good at the yapping. This is the original vaudeville. If you think I'm going a little overboard, it's because it's unexpected. I think that's the reason. But if I were going to like make my own Bible, I feel like I maybe would do like the comedy Bible or the entertaining Bible, and I'd just like put Tamar and Judah in there. I'd put Abraham pimping his wife. I'd put definitely this story. I'd put the golden calf story. That's pretty good. Like there's a lot of like really fun stories, and I'd punch them up. Like I'd, make them a little extra fun, add to the dialogue a little bit, but that would be a fun book because you take out all the boring stuff. There's some fun to be had in Bible. It's not true. Like you can't look at it and be like, all good, all loving, all powerful, all knowing. Like you can't have those things with Yahweh, but you certainly can have an entertaining fella and his underling who really loves him, but also is just like, why are you ruining my life here? That's a fun chapter. I hope the next few chapters continue to be that fun. No promises. But listen, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. Like this video and comment on it. Anyway, that's it for me for now, and we'll see you next time. Bye.